Welcome to the FML podcast, the podcast on a mission to uncover actionable insights, explore the latest trends, and to catalyze your fintech's growth. Join Growth Gorilla's founder and managing director, Sachdev, and some of fintech's hardest hitting marketers and leaders.
Welcome everyone to today's episode of the FML podcast. Today I'm joined by Lissele Pratt, co-founder at Capitalixe. Lissele, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Shamir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and I suppose your journey so far and how you ended up at Capitalixe?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm one of the co-founders of Capitalixe, and I started the business when I was 23. And before that, so I've been in the industry for 8 years now. Started when I was 18 as an entry-level FX broker in the City of London. And I essentially worked my way up through the ranks. And then eventually I discovered that there was a gap in the market to service the underserved industries. So that's where Capitalixe was born. And we're a fintech consultancy specialized in high-risk verticals. So we work with a lot of gambling, crypto, Forex, financial institutions as well. And what we do is we help them to obtain payments and banking solutions across the world. So we work with a global network of over 50 global banks and financial institutions across the world. So we match them up with providers best suited to their needs, essentially.
There's quite a few sort of operators in your space. I mean, kind of where does sort of Capitalixe differ? What's kind of the USP?
So how we differ in the market, I would say, is that we are specialists in the high risk space. And obviously most companies are generalists in different areas, but we are the specialists in gambling, in crypto and Forex. We know this area very well and we know what our clients need. So that's why they prefer to come to us. Another thing that differentiates us against other consultancies or other companies is that we don't charge any upfront consulting fees, which a lot of companies out there, they would probably charge, I don't know, like $5,000 upfront to find a solution or something ridiculous like that. And so we have a saying here is rest assured, we will only succeed when our clients do. So it's in our interest to help them get a solution, get onboarded and open up an account.
Amazing. So kind of before we started recording, we were kind of sort of just sharing notes and comparing notes. And obviously you've got very, very sort of deep experience in the CFD space and the gambling space as well. But I was looking at your site and I was looking at the number of clients that you're servicing at the moment and you're working with at the moment. And it's incredibly impressive. What, over 100 clients that you have at the moment?
Mm-hmm, correct.
It's very, very sort of significant. And kind of before we jump into the, I suppose, the nuances of cross-border payments, I kind of just want to spend a moment and just sort of talk a little bit about, I suppose, growing that customer base. What do you think your kind of the ingredients to your sort of success formula has been?
I'm not going to lie, at the beginning, it was pretty tough. Obviously, me and my co-founder, we're both young in the business. I started when I was 23. Also coming in as a young woman was pretty difficult to get my foot in the door. But yeah, I persevered and I stood my ground, gained my confidence and just showed up. One of the ways I was able to actually make an impact is actually delivering on the results that I provide my clients. So getting them a viable solution that they need, they're happy with it. So they'll introduce me to other companies in the industry. And that's how our client base started growing from there, from the introductions that we received from clients that were receiving good services. It was kind of like a snowball effect. And then our name started getting out there and we started getting, I don't know, like law firms, accounting firms approaching us because they've heard about what we can do for their clients. So they also want to work with us. So it's all about being like delivering on what you say you can deliver on and also giving the efficient service that they need, because in the high risk space, everything is super slow. Well, I wouldn't say everything, but a lot of companies out there, they move very slow. And these companies, they need a quick and efficient service. They need accounts like yesterday. So it's up to us to be efficient, make it as quick as possible for them. And yeah, just deliver on what they need.
So I think the space that we're sort of talking about, the space that you operate in, I mean, it's actually quite a mature market. And I think if you compare it to, say, when we say fintech, we think, Revolut and Free Trade and Robinhood. But I think like the CFD market and the Forex markets have been doing this for 20 years. They kind of underpin a lot of what we're seeing today, really. I don't think they get enough credit, really, to be honest.
No, they don't. I mean, these platforms have been around for years and years, and they're like as you said before, I think you said like the first generation of fintech, right? They literally are.
My background was working for one of these firms, and I remember the day we actually launched our mobile app, and it was PR worthy. It was such a big move in the market. It was a bit crap, but it was still a cool thing. At the time,
Yeah.
we were doing it way before the Free Trades and the Robin Hoods.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how much the fintech industry has evolved, even in like just a few years. It's just grown so rapidly, and there's just so much more innovation that's happening as well. And there's just plenty more to happen. It's like, oh, what's going to happen next,
It's interesting where we kind of are in the world at the moment, that I think we're looking for a little bit of direction. I think after what happened with FTX, obviously that I don't think it crippled the crypto market, but it certainly set it back a good number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with a slowdown of funding as well, that's had an impact as well. And I think there's different views as to what's going to happen. Are we going to see consolidation? Is Bitcoin dead, and all of this sort of stuff?
Given what's happened with FTX, from my perspective, crypto's still going to be here, but it's going to be more heavily regulated. I think there's a lot of countries out there that are now introducing actual regulations for cryptocurrency exchanges. Like the US has, they're coming under a lot of scrutiny because obviously it's happened from the US side. And a lot of other countries now are adapting into offering actual crypto exchanges licenses. Obviously, the UK is one of them that recently happened early last year. So from my perspective, I would say cryptocurrencies are here to stay, but I would say not all of them are. Like the main players like Bitcoin, Ethereum, like those ones will be here, but there's obviously so many little coins out there. In the future, it'll be more focused on the actual blockchain technology underneath crypto, because I feel like that's proper revolutionary and more of what the world needs, because of how it can reduce a lot of fraud, speed up the cross-border payment system, make it also a lot cheaper and more efficient as well. And now that obviously the banks don't like crypto, do they? So they're trying as much as possible to eliminate crypto. They're trying as much as possible to compete with them to ensure that people don't move over to crypto, because obviously now we've seen the UK has the digital pound. Obviously there's the yuan as well, the Chinese digital yuan. And a lot of other countries out there are also adopting like central bank digital currencies. They're using the blockchain technology from crypto to implement into the mainstream financial system.
How do you think that will impact your customer base? How will it impact these CFD platforms, these gambling institutions? I assume it's going to be some form of benefit to them, but it'd be great to kind of hear your view on it.
Because obviously a high risk, they need to have good solutions. And one of the good solutions we do introduce is crypto technology, like crypto payment solutions. So we're already adopting that. These industries, they love crypto because it's a lot easier to pay in and pay out. So I would say can adapt more of the digital currencies in the world, then it's going to be a lot more friendlier for the high risk industries, because obviously the blockchain technologies, it reduces a lot of like cybersecurity threats. It also can help with a lot of the regulatory issues. So, for example, if we adopted blockchain technology in the compliance side, then it could speed up the AML and KYC checks, which obviously in high risk, it's a pain because it takes so long. It's definitely a benefit for the industry, that's for sure.
Could we dig into a little bit more about the adoption of blockchain? And I suppose my question is quite simple, but how? But how will blockchain, improve that process?
Digital currencies like Bitcoin or blockchain, the technology behind it. For example, right now, a lot of us use Swift payments to send money, right? Or SEPA, faster payments. Swift, this is like a main product of what a lot of our clients need. And it's actually a pain for them to get. Usually Swift payments can take like 3 to 4 days to receive on the other side. And it has to go through intermediaries, different banks. And sometimes the payments can get stuck with the bank because they may have inputted incorrect data. So if any little thing, any little wrong data is inputted, it's going to get held up in an intermediary bank, and sometimes it can take weeks, if not months, to get back to the original customer. So it actually never reaches the end user. So it's an actual headache, the Swift network. I would say it's an outdated system, but there's a lot of innovation that's happening within Swift, the Swift network at the moment. Like, for example, Swift GPI, they're trying to become more instant. But just like the traditional banking system, it's got years to go. And that's why the fintech companies are here. They're here to disrupt the industry, and they do it a lot more efficient and quicker, because when you're working with traditional banks, it has a lot of hierarchy, and there's a lot of political stuff within the company or within the bank that they can't change. So
with all of this in mind, I suppose that, all of these things are, positives. But what do you think the biggest challenges will be for cross-border payments?
So in light of recent global events, obviously there's a lot of shift happening within the world and the industries. But I still, the cross-border payments, the industry is like a multi-billion pound industry. Everyone's always moving money around the world. Everyone wants to do business internationally. It's only going to keep growing as we keep expanding internationally. Everyone keeps moving around the world. But here will be the biggest challenges in the coming years. So increased regulation. So governments around the world are increasing their regulations on cross-border payments because of obviously money laundering and terrorist financing concerns, which could add complexity and cost to the process. Obviously, as we know, there are geopolitical tensions. So tensions between each country can make it difficult to conduct cross-border payments, especially when sanctions and restrictions are in place. So given what's happening in Russia, a lot of companies had to close off doing business with them, and obviously a lot of companies got shut down from it. And given this areas of what's happening with China at the moment, I'm not going to go into political detail because it's not best to talk about it, but there's a lot of tension happening. So that could obviously be a challenge for cross-border payments in the future. And obviously we know that China has developed its own SWIFT network. So they're trying to compete against the SWIFT network. So that's going to be interesting to see. That's obviously a challenge. And they're actually requesting local countries to pay into that network as well. So they're expanding their network into the 8 Asian countries because they want to compete with SWIFT, basically. And also it allows them to bypass any sanctions. So if anything does happen in the future and they get cut off the SWIFT network like Russia did, they can still operate normally. So there's that. And also there's the cybersecurity threat. So as digital payments become more prevalent, there is obviously more cybersecurity attacks, which could obviously disrupt and compromise the process. So yeah, there's definitely challenges, and it's all to do with like political matters and the regulation and the security threats, because obviously as everyone does more digital business online, that's when issues arise with hackers and fraud and everything else.
There's obviously a significant amount of challenges that cross-border payments are going to face, but I think the counter side of that is obviously there's going to be some positives, massive positives as well. But I think equally as well, it's not like it's coming as a surprise, and I think with the rate that technology is moving, it seems somewhat manageable. So we kind of touched upon this at the start of the conversation, which was obviously you've done incredibly well in terms of the number of clients that you've onboarded, a number of brands that you're servicing. This being Fintech Marketers and Leaders podcast, I have to talk a little bit about marketing and growth here. When did things really start to kick off for Capitalixe? What was the catalyst for you?
The catalyst is when we really started to kick off was actually when I started investing a lot of my time and energy into learning about marketing. I actually come from a sales background. I come from business development, and I always thought that business development is more important. That's what brings in the business. But in order for business development to work, marketing has to be there too, and they actually go hand in hand together. And this is what I always tell my team as well. Like, it's equally as important as sales. It just has to work together. So when I started my business, I was obviously doing the business development side, the networking, everything else. I got up to a certain level, which was good. And then I was thinking, okay, how am I going to take it to the next level? What can I do? And obviously there's the marketing side, which we didn't actually go into full force with. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get myself a marketing mentor. I'm going to really study marketing. And I got lots of freelancers in, I got lots of people helping me with lots of different stuff. Yeah, it was only till then that I really started seeing like consistent growth. So all of last year, I really dedicated my time. So I was basically like the CMO, the chief marketing officer of the business. And up until recently, so early, like up until last month, we hired our first marketing manager who's coming in to properly take the business to the next level. But I got it up to a good level, which I'm really happy with. And I successfully implemented 4 lead generation strategies, which really boosted the business. One of the areas that we are focusing pretty hard on recently is on the in-person events, because I feel like whenever you put a face to the name, people are always going to remember you, right? People always remember how you make them feel. People always remember your face. So you're more likely to close business that way. So I always get my team to go to in-person events and go to networking events. Other ways that we do marketing. So we're pretty big on social media, especially, LinkedIn is our main source of business. So we're pretty big on there. And I like to educate on the challenges fintech is facing or the challenges in their industry, that like in the payments industry. There's lots of different aspects to marketing, right? It's not just one area. It's like marketing, it's basically everything. So you have to focus on like different, like a set few things at a certain time. And then once you've nailed those, then you can start expanding into different areas and then expanding from there. So that's another task for me this year, now that I've got a few of them in place, like the email marketing, the partnerships, the advertising, the social media, the events and everything else. I'm looking at new avenues. So always looking to strategize is my growth strategy.
I think what you say is true in the sense that you kind of always got to be moving forward with marketing. You can't expect one channel to continuously work forever. And I kind of always see marketing as building blocks. You've got to get the foundations right. And I think for any business, if cold calling is working great, if cold emails are working great, if paid's working fantastic, if it's, I refer to this as hand-to-hand combat. If it's going to meet people in your network one by one, that's absolutely fine. And then kind of once you know what's working, you can turn that into some form of process. And then you can kind of add the next layer on. And I think, with a business like yours, 2023, where you're doing a lot more events, eventually I suspect you'll probably end up doing your own events and you'll kind of expand out your efforts further. You've got a female-led business. So I'm keen to kind of like dig into that a little bit and kind of touch upon the diversity and inclusion piece, because it's not something that we've kind of discussed it at great length here on this podcast today. I think it's perhaps an area, not that we've overlooked, but perhaps we just haven't had the opportunity to discuss it. What's been your experience, and I suppose your colleagues or your contacts or people in your network, what's been their experience in terms of being a female founder within the fintech or tech space?
When I first started my business, I didn't realize how low the statistics was of female-led businesses in fintech. So I believe it's less than 10% of female founders in the fintech industry are women. So for me, like, it was only up until recently I discovered this. I didn't really think anything of it. I definitely faced some challenges, especially as being a young female founder in the industry. I was 23 at the time. So some of the challenges I did face was that I wasn't taken seriously at the start. A lot of people that I was dealing with were like a lot older than me, and most of them were men. So that was difficult in itself. But over time, within like a few months, I eventually found my feet, gained my confidence, stood my ground, knew what I was delivering on the services that I offered, and knew I could deliver it better than other people were offering at the time, and obviously now as well, giving people what they need and good at also giving people good quality service. So I think that goes hand in hand. And then when I can deliver on the results, that's when I start getting the referrals and people start trusting me. And that's how it actually built from there. Also, what really helped me was building my credibility and reputation within the industry. Part of my marketing strategy at the time was on the thought leadership articles, and I still do them today. So I get a lot of PR these days, like people coming to me. I've also got a PR manager. So building my credibility within the industry has really helped to get my name out there and also to be taken more seriously. So that's really helped. I guess some of the other challenges I faced was probably more in the early days when I first started within the industry. So when I was 18, I worked on the trading floor. I was the only woman at the time, and there was like 50 men around me who were a lot older than me as well. They were like in their late 20s, early 30s. And there was me, 18-year-old. And I was told that women didn't belong in the industry and women weren't very good at their jobs. So for me, that was quite demotivating. What I would say for women who are looking to break into the industry is don't listen to them. I would just tell them that they're just as capable and deserving as anyone else in this industry, and they have the right to be there too. I would also say, I'll be honest, it's not for the faint-hearted. You have to have thick skin in this industry because people will just tell you stuff how it is and you may not like how they say it. So you kind of have to be able to stand your ground, and you just have to realize that it's not for the faint-hearted, and there's going to be stuff that you won't like, but that's part of the industry. And as we are growing and becoming more inclusive and diverse, this is definitely something that I'm working on. A lot of women in senior positions are working on improving it as well. And there's a lot of allies out there that are helping us, like men are helping us. It's really nice to see that there's a lot of men out there that are really supportive of women these days. They're creating a more inclusive environment. They're actually supporting and advocating for them. So it's really nice to see that everyone's coming together in this industry.
Just to sort of touch upon the allies point, sort of two questions really that sort of pop into my head. One is, what is it that allies can do to help sort of move thinking forward? And then kind of second of all, almost like a bit of a devil's advocate sort of question, but what do you think the benefits are of having a diverse and inclusive, work environment, workspace, let's call it?
So to touch on your last point, there was a statistic that I read. Having more women on your board increases the revenue of the business by 53%. And I can actually send you the link to this as well, compared to those that have 0 women on their board. So from a revenue standpoint, it's in your interest to hire more women if you want to have a successful business and have more revenue. There's other statistics that say that having more women on your team, increases revenue by 30% as well, like having a diverse team, because everyone has different opinions. Like women are going to have different opinions. Men are going to have different opinions to women. We probably think in a different way to them. So it's from a revenue standpoint, if you want a successful business, you have to have a diverse team. And that means hiring more women, hiring people from more diverse backgrounds. That's what I would say. And what can male allies do to create a more inclusive environment? What I've seen a lot is some men, like on LinkedIn, specifically advocating and supporting women. So I don't know if I do a post, for example, about why it's important to support women in the industry or how we can help women succeed. I have some men that actually repost it, and they actually post the article on their own profiles and share their point of view. So just little things like that really makes a difference, because it shows that men are also interested in helping women. And if other men see a man post about helping for women equality on their LinkedIn profile, sounds really bad, but maybe they'll take it more seriously, because obviously they can connect with them better and they're more like them. So seeing people that are like them supporting people like us is going to help them to jump on the bandwagon.
We've kind of talked mostly about sort of the male versus sort of female aspect, but there are obviously many other underrepresented groups out there. Do you think the same applies, or do you think that we need to take specific focus on underrepresented groups or areas or segments of underrepresented groups?
Absolutely. I think fintech industry in particular, traditionally it's been white male dominated, and now we're starting to see a shift in that with more women coming through. And to top that off, yes, I do think we can be more inclusive to other underrepresented groups as well, like ethnic minorities. So at Capitalixe, the funny thing is I'm literally the only English person at my company and we have 10 of us. So I have people and they're all based in the UK as well, majority of them. So we have people from Syria, Brazil, Portugal, Bulgaria. So I like to think that we're pretty diverse in that respect, and obviously ethnic minorities as well. So earlier last year, we created a scheme to help underrepresented groups, mostly focused on women, to enter and break into the industry. So I'm quite a big advocate for helping people from those backgrounds jump in. But obviously there's many other backgrounds that we can support. For a small company like mine, it's difficult to grasp everyone in, but I'm doing my best to help the ones that I can make a difference to at the moment. And then as I start expanding, I can look into other areas. But I think for bigger companies, for sure, they can definitely make an effort to create a more inclusive environment for, I don't know, neurodiverse people or people from ethnic backgrounds. Because, yeah, as I mentioned, traditionally it's been very white male dominated.
I mean, it's an interesting topic, right? Because equally as well, you want to hire the best person for the role, but then equally at the same time, you need to make sure that everyone has had, an equal opportunity to progress in the roles that they're in. So it's somewhat chicken and egg. It starts at the top, really. I think if a business leader makes the active decision to say, look, I want a more diverse workforce, that trickles down the layers of management, and then decisions are being made at a hiring level to go, actually, I think we should cast the net wider, and therefore bring in more people that will create diversity.
And there's also the aspect of unconscious bias, where we can create change is really educating the industry on what unconscious bias is. Because, for example, in a foreign exchange brokerage where I used to work, a lot of them would just hire people that are similar to them. So it would just be obviously loads of men from the certain area in London. That's where they were. So it wasn't like, okay, we're hiring people from different areas. It was all like one specific area. There's obviously a lot of unconscious bias that's happening, and it's all about educating people what that actually means and educating people during the hiring process. They're being like, for them to notice if they're having that unconscious bias within themselves as well.
Yeah, it's. I was talking to my marketing manager about this, and we've got more women than men. I think we're pretty diverse as well, and my view is that on that point of unconscious bias, it's naturally always going to be easier for you to find common ground with someone that, frankly, looks like you and happens to be from a similar area as you. But I think you've got to take a step back sometimes and ask yourself: are you not hiring that person because they're not qualified, or are you not hiring that person because you don't particularly feel comfortable, and you don't feel at ease with that individual because they're different, and you therefore, you feel a little bit more at ease and comfortable with someone that does look like you, and there's probably an element that you can talk about sort of sharing values and stuff in there as well. But at a very sort of high level point, I think it's making sure, I think it's taking that step back and being really, really clear. And I think, particularly for founders of startups and scale ups, you're given a wad of cash by a VC to build any company that you want, in the way that you want. What a great opportunity to hire the best talent to build the best business. Why fill it with people that
Are just going to be like you and think like you, and
yeah, exactly
yeah.
that. You just became one giant echo chamber, and we can see that the companies that have performed really, really well, the ones that are diverse and inclusive and have that variation,
Yeah,
and it's
it's true.
notable.
Yeah, I like to think that this has gotten to where it is today is because me and my business partner, we're pretty diverse because he's a male, he's Bulgarian, he comes from a diverse background. I'm a woman, I'm young, I'm also like half Thai from a diverse background as well. So I like to think that because we're obviously both diverse, we obviously have different opinions, and that's really helped us to shape us into the company we are today. Whereby if I think it was just two people that thought the same, it would probably take a bit longer. And we always challenge each other and question what we each have to say and why. And I do this with a lot of my team as well. One of the actually, I wouldn't say it's just me and him. I would say it's also the team. Having a good team that stands by you and supports you, where everyone can work really well together, probably the best thing you could ever have in growing your business. We have a saying here, so one of our values, and we really stand by it, is teamwork makes the dream work. And we all have that same goal, and we're all going to help each other get there together. So that's what we drive. Like, it's ingrained into who we are here. And having a good team around you that supports you is going to help you get there so much quicker.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, we're very much the same over here. I do really emphasize the point of, we should be setting each other up for success, and obviously not for failure. And one of my favorite sort of sayings is when something's kind of like hopping around, a task or whatever it is, I always sort of go, all right, we're all passing the buck here, but where does the buck stop? And usually, you'll get a couple of volunteers and they'll go, I'll deal with it, I'll sort it out. And I think
Nice.
that creates, creates ownership and accountability.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's very quickly sort of talk about the future of Capitalixe. What's
Mhm.
the 12-month and 36-month outlook for you and your business, really?
So I always love to say that the sky is truly the limit with us. I always say I have so much energy right now, and my team have so much energy, and we're all super motivated and excited to just smash through glass ceilings, make loads of money, help loads of companies. Where I see the company going within the next 12 months is we're going to keep hiring more people. We've expanded quite rapidly within the past year, so we're going to keep hiring, and we're going to also expand into new jurisdictions. We've recently set up a business in the Middle East, so in Dubai. So we're looking to branch out into there. And we've also recently hired a senior sales lady who speaks fluent Arabic. That's a key area for us to focus on next. There's also other industries that we can branch into and also other jurisdictions. So it's not just Europe that we're focusing on. It's not just the Middle East. There could be other ones. So we're going to continuously expand because our business has no borders. We're obviously a fintech consultancy, so we can literally just work with wherever. I would also say we're going to continue adding on new trends, like payment trends, like new innovative solutions that complement our already, like the offer that we have already, and adding on new services that complement what we already do at the business. So I'm always on the lookout to add on new solutions, new services that can complement our offering and complement what our clients need. Just be the one-stop shop for fintech, basically, the go-to provider.
That's fantastic. Let's wrap up with our quick fire round. What podcasts are you listening to right now?
I love the Diary of a CEO, and also I love CEO Score as well. So anything CEO, love them.
What's your current take? What's your take on the Stephen Bartlett scandal at the moment?
Oh, I didn't know about the Stephen Bartlett scandal.
You don't
What's
know about
happened?
this? We'll
No.
definitely have to scrub this. But basically, he didn't build a £300 million agency.
Oh
Turns
shit,
out,
really?
yeah. It turns out the agency that he built was bought by a bigger company that rebranded to Social Chain, and then he became co-CEO and then left after a year. So but it was already worth like a couple of $100 million when they bought him.
Oh
But it's because
shit.
he had a good brand name. Yeah. So it was all a bit.
Wow.
But
Wow.
basically, that $250,000 that he's got next to him in Dragon's Den,
Yeah.
he kind of wishes he had that.
Oh
Um,
wow. Fake it till you make it, I guess.
he literally did, and he almost got away with
Yeah.
it.
Wow.
What's your favorite fintech app?
Revolut, I would say.
Interesting.
I do love Revolut for personal reasons because it's so efficient, you know. The rates are good. Yeah, I love Revolut. It's a very efficient app.
What books are you currently reading, or would you recommend?
Well, I'm reading at the moment Dare to Lead by Brené Brown, and I'm trying to learn more about leadership, improve on my leadership. Oh, it's a lovely book about really being like it's okay to be vulnerable with your team because they'll respect you a lot more. So yeah, it's about like it's like to strengthen your leadership by being vulnerable, basically. It's really nice. And one of the books that I would recommend, which I love and really helped to change my financial mindset, is Rich Dad Poor Dad. Really, really great book. And I read it, I think I was like 18 at the time, and it really just changed my whole perspective on money. It's just about like if you want to get rich, when I say rich, like live a good life that you are happy with, like have the freedom that you want to do, live a wealthy life where you can really enjoy it. Yeah, I would recommend Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Amazing. And my last and favourite question is: what's one thing I perhaps haven't asked you that I should have asked you?
Maybe what do I like to do for fun?
What do you like to do for fun?
So what I like to do, I love to travel, like traveling. Okay, so one of the reasons why I set up my business was so I could actually have the freedom to travel from wherever I want. And this is why we have a remote based business because I love to travel. Like I was traveling around Asia for the past 2 months. I got back a couple of weeks ago and I was just working from my laptop. So I feel like traveling really just makes me feel alive and in the moment and really happy. So yeah, traveling is probably one of my best hobbies. And I also love to cook. I love to cook Thai food. It's fun. It's like very therapeutic, and then I get to eat it and then taste it. So it's you make something creative and then you get to enjoy it. So it's really nice.
Amazing. I'm I actually love cooking too, but I'm big on barbecue.
Ooh,
So
do you marinate your meats first?
oh yeah. Like there's no shortcuts at all. It's coal barbecue, slow cook it. I invest a good 4 or 5 hours into a barbecue. None of this gas stuff and
Oh,
quick grill.
yeah. Oh, that sounds so good. I love a barbecue. And the char, I love the char.
Yeah, it's it would be perfect if my wife would allow me to have a cigar while putting on the barbecue, but I can't afford the kids. Lissele, thank you very much for coming on today. It's been great having you on.
Thank you so much, Shamir. It's been such a pleasure.
The FML podcast is brought to you by Growth Gorilla. To find out how our marketing growth experts can boost your fintech's growth, head to growthgorilla.co.uk. And make sure to search for the FML podcast in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Don't forget to click follow to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Growth Gorilla, thanks for listening.